we live right now? I think we are. It says right in the corner, live on Facebook. So we're just going to go with that. I think we need to start with anybody out there who's watching this that is hungry. I would encourage you to look up each one of these establishments because you'll be extremely hungry. So welcome to Creative Hive live on Facebook. We have the pleasure of welcoming some of the team behind YEGIHC and the people that are helping with that. We have Katie, Chris Harvey, Jason, Kyla, and Lisa all here with different perspectives. Each and every one of them have different establishments throughout all of our communities. They're community-based and they're community-driven, and we're here to find out their stories, how we can maybe help save Edmonton hospitality and the reality of what you're actually facing today. So thank you guys so much for being here and being ready to open up about this. I really appreciate it. Let's start by introducing everybody. I don't know what angle you're all in here, but we'll start with Katie because she was the first person I chatted with.
I'm Katie Ingram, and I'm the owner of Cartago. It's a 50-seat neighborhood pub in the community of Forest Heights, which is just on the south side of the Dawson Bridge, just on the other side of downtown Edmonton. And I was 2 weeks away from opening delicatessen, coffee shop and delicatessen with my business partner when COVID hit. So we have two spaces that we are currently completely shuttered on that are accruing rent. And just dealing with the challenges as they arise every day.
And the challenges are changing every day, aren't they? Chris, tell us about your establishments and where you're located.
Sure. My name is Chris Harvey. I'm the operating partner at the Church of John Eat and Drink. We're a bar and event venue located downtown, just outside the Ice District on 103rd Street in the basement of Crash Hotel. And we've been there for 4 years operating. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we've had to completely shutter as of March 15th, 16th. But unfortunately, also before that, so as of the 12th, because we are a large space, we're over 250 person capacity, our business has been very largely affected. We had 2 shows booked for that first weekend, and we lost over $15,000 to $20,000 in revenue just from the 12th on 13th, 14th, due to flights not being able to come in and artists not being able to arrive. So it's been a long haul. Obviously, we're, again, completely shuttered as of the 16th. And we did have to lay off everybody, including myself. And we don't really have a lot of options for pivoting in terms of kitchen logistics, making it make sense. I'm sure you'll hear more about it, how difficult that is. But again, we're incurring rent. We're very lucky to have a positive landlord that's been working with us. But at the end of the day, Katie came to me with some of her frustrations and, initial responses. And we were very lucky to help be a part of this and expand it to include a lot of our businesses that we really care about in our city.
And I don't know if anybody watching right now understands who all of these people are really, but we have some serious powerhouses in the hospitality industry that are part of YEGIHC and people that know the business inside and out that have helped has helped shape Edmonton into one of the culinary destinations, because it wasn't that for a very long time. So I want everyone watching and listening to know that this is not an overnight success of all these people being here. And we have to do something to continue to push it forward. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about you and what you're facing right now.
So I'm Lisa Caputo. I am a co-owner of Chivo Bistro with my husband, Rosario Caputo. It's just a small 42-seat bistro just in Oliver Square. We actually ended up shutting our doors basically as soon as the government said all small businesses have to shut down because of social distancing. And we closed our doors for just a little over 2 weeks, but our landlords are big, huge corporation. It's Sun Life Financial. So they didn't really say, we're going to help you guys. They basically said, we're not going to do a breach of lease if you guys don't pay your rent. But at the end of the day, we want our money. So Rosario and I brainstormed and kind of saw what other people were doing and decided to start Chivo Bistro Casa. So people can pre-order, pick up at home, or pick up and cook everything at home. So it's going well, but it's not bringing in revenue. It's basically just enough to hopefully cover overhead. to kind of get us by so that we're not getting ourselves dug into a really deep hole, because as we all know, this industry was hard before COVID came. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're just trying to do as much as we can to get rent paid, get our insurance paid, get all that stuff covered. And at the end of the day, we've got a couple guys that are working for us for free because they still want a job to go to when this is all over. So we've been very blessed in that sense, but something needs to be done in the long run, because my biggest fear is that when we're all allowed to start opening up our businesses again, it's not going to be the same. So we need like long-term support from the higher levels. And then within the city, obviously takeout and gift cards, but people can only do so much. So that's kind of where we're at. We're not sure what our business is going to look like when this is all said and done. We're just kind of taking it one day at a time.
As so many people are. Thank you for sharing that. Jason, tell us a bit about your business and your establishments.
Yeah, of course. My name is Jason Yen, co-owner of the Provincial Kitchen and Bar located in Whitemount Crossing in the South Side area. The initial effects of the pandemic was we saw this precipitous drop in customers and reservations and large parties, and it happened kind of before St. Patrick's Day. So that was kind of a big like revenue day for pubs like ours, and I'm sure some of yours as well. So it was crazy. And then from there it was the restriction and kind of closures of the non-essential services like pubs and restaurants, and we had to shift our focus from the dining experience to takeout and using other delivery methods, and then from there it's been kind of challenging. We kind of thrive on the customers coming in store during the happy hours and social gatherings and things like that, and sports. And sports is a huge thing, a huge kind of part of what we do as well. And not having those avenues to have for a business, it's been a struggle for sure. And like Katie alluded to prior to this, she mentioned how takeout alone just can't sustain off that. I mean, a lot of us is liquor sales and having people, and it's a big venue. We have 100 some seats. Our capacity is well over 100. So not having that has definitely been challenging for sure.
I'd like to touch on once after we chat with Kyla here and just think about this. I'd like you guys to, after we talk to Kyla, tell us, put a number to it. Anybody watching, this isn't 5 people that are affected. Let's talk about the number of people in each of your establishments that this actually affects right now, and then we'll carry on with that. So Kyla, tell us a bit about your stop.
Okay, so we are kind of several partners. So I'm one of 4 partners at Common, and then we also own Grandin and 9910, which is a venue. And then I also own Bamboo Ballroom, co-owned. So I'm in a diversified, difficult situation right now. So I have a closed retail store that's operating online. Grandin, we have stayed open just doing takeout only, and then we're doing the delivery platforms, which is something that we hopefully will chat about later, because that's also a very difficult thing that everyone's trying to navigate right now with commissions and stuff, and figuring out like what the right thing to do and what the wrong thing to do is. And then 9910, which would be more similar to like Chris's Church of John. It's a venue, doesn't really do like a lot of like food service. It does events. So that's closed indefinitely. And then the Common, which we're actually getting started today with a very limited takeout menu on pre-order, but it's been closed since the 14th of March. So
it's all heartbreaking. It is. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And I know probably right now you guys say it's all closed, but I bet you each one of you is working right now more than maybe you.
More than ever. Like ever. I'm so busy. It's insane right now. Like, because we don't have a team anymore. And that makes it a lot more difficult.
That's the point. So when we are talking here, there's 5 of you. Let's talk about how many in those teams that you guys have had to temporarily lay off, and hopefully it's temporary. We'll just start, Chris.
Yeah, we've had to lay off 25 employees as of the 16th. So it's really difficult, and it's something that Katie and I have talked about with other groups and some of the smaller people on board of this initiative. We hire a lot of part-time and a lot of marginalized workers. So we have a lot of people who need this as income, or, some people that do have mental health issues that aren't able to keep a full-time job. So it is really, really disheartening that we, unfortunately, 25 employees. And it's really difficult. And it's something that Katie and I have talked about with other groups and some of the smaller people on board of this initiative. We hire a lot of part-time and a lot of marginalized workers. So we have a lot of people who need this as income, or, some people that do have mental health issues that aren't able to keep a full-time job. So it is really, really disheartening that we, don't have an opportunity for them to stay on board and work, and it does compound their stress. And you know, we're really looking to find solutions to get everybody back, but the reality is it's 100% unsure, and we don't have a lot of opportunities to say this sort of stuff. So thanks for having us to talk about it, but without causing widespread panic. Obviously, we're doing everything we can to reopen, but there are a lot of realities and challenges to get us back there for sure.
Absolutely. Katie?
Yeah, we have a small staff, so but they're all completely laid off. So 10 people, but each one of those people represents not only a dollar figure into the economy or anything like that, but they represent their own family and their role in Cartago and Fleisch's family, and ultimately the building of community on that corner in Forest Heights. And so many people in our community have such an attachment to our staff, and obviously so do I. So it was extremely heartbreaking, and we're working extremely hard to make sure that there is something for them to come back to.
Lisa?
So like Katie, we're just a small staff. So we laid off 10 people in total. My husband is also the chef in our restaurant. So he's now working around the clock from morning until night, getting everything made and done fresh. And I'm on mat leave currently, but that's no longer a thing because somebody has to do all the order taking and labels and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm working between naps and after the baby goes to bed. So I'm back to work almost full time here. And then, like I said, we have 2 guys that are literally helping us out of the goodness of their heart so that they have a business to go back to when this happens, because they don't want to take any more money out of our pockets. So yeah, it's pretty crazy that they would do that for us.
It speaks to community, and we'll get into community next, and I'll just kind of back out of the conversation totally because I know you guys have so much to say there. Jason, how many people has this affected for you?
Yeah, like 2025, I think. I was actually on a post travel 14-day quarantine, and I wasn't able to speak to the staff when it all went down. And unfortunately, one of our business partners, she had to be the one to kind of spread the bad news and tell everyone that they got laid off because of everything. So, but yeah, it was a difficult time. I felt helpless too because I wasn't able to be in the store to help or do anything like that for that period of time during the quarantine. So, but now that everything's all kind of settled, I'm kind of back into it as well, and working and helping with deliver or takeout orders and packing food up and doing what I can to be of assistance. So, but yeah, that's good.
It's a lot of people is what it ends up like. Kyla?
We're probably at about 80 that we had to lay off. That's across all of the businesses. Yeah. The Common itself, probably 40 though, because the Common was running the 2 full venues plus a full kitchen program and then a night program and a lot of private events, weddings, yeah. So it's definitely been very hard. And a lot of those staff have been with us for 10 years. And so they're our family. And, I've advocated and worked a lot to have a lot of fairness within the industry. And I mean, gender based as well. A lot of our staff is female. And that's not to say that that's a factor entirely, but it seems a lot of people that work in hospitality are female. They rely very heavily on it. There's a lot of students, people that are trying to pay off loans and debts. And how Chris said, there's a lot of people that are marginalized. They suffer from mental health. They can work maybe not a full-time job. And so a lot of these people, and there's not as many options for a lot. A lot of our staff do have degrees, but some don't, right? So there's not a lot of options for them in the workforce. When this is said and done, depending on how restaurants and hospitality get operating, we're a very important part of employing people and entry-level positions as well, right? So.
Yeah. I think it's important to put those numbers out there. We're not going to focus on them, but that I think leads nicely into the impact on community, that it isn't 5 people or 5 restaurants or just the one down the street, that each one of those is that ripple effect, right? It goes from one person who owns it then out to the next people and their families and their families and their families. And that's what we're seeing around the world right now with COVID. So, but to bring it back home, let's talk a little bit about community and how that community and this community of hospitality came together to create YEGIHC. So what is that? Who created it and why? I'll start with you, Katie. And you guys just go, I'll stay out.
So Edmonton Independent Hospitality Community came about, I had a very disheartening conversation with my bank, and it really lit a fire under me that made me angry. And I thought there might be other people having these conversations and feeling this despair, and we could be done after this as a city, you know, and how, I mean, I've lived in Edmonton all my life. I know what Jasper Ave and White Ave looked like, you know, 10, 15 years ago, and what it looks like today, and how hard people have worked to make it look like that. And I'm only a small piece of that. I mean, I've only been in the hospitality industry for 3 years. So what that did for me is that I said, I need to connect with other people that might be going through the same thing. And we need to know that there's other people, that we're not alone, that there's other people going through the same thing, and there's strength in numbers. And, you know, if there's one thing that I know, it's how to advocate and how to make noise and how to get in front of people that can make a difference. And I've been doing that in a lot of spaces for a long time. And this is something right now that I'm hugely passionate about. So why not try and do this while I can't do anything else? Because I think that's the other thing that a lot of people feel right now too, is helpless. Like, absolutely, what can we do? Because my business is shuttered. I laid off all my beloved staff. What can I do to be useful at this time? And so I sent out a memo with some proposed solutions to a bunch of people that I knew in my circle to get some help. And Chris grabbed that. And if anybody knows Chris Harvey, he Chris Harvey'd the whole situation, promoted the SHIT out of it. And now here we are.
You can say it. You can say shit. It's okay.
Okay, cool. Good. Because I'm gonna.
You can say it. I promise you. You're good.
I forgot to ask beforehand because I'm probably gonna say something kind of you maybe too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. You know, Katie reached out and she already had a number of businesses on board, and spoke to some people like Paul Schufelt and the Northern Chicken guys, and people who were obviously in the same boat. And some of them are a lot more kitchen heavy, which is also something that is a lot different than my business. But taking a look at what Katie had kind of, her options were, you know, give up or fight. And that was something that's unfortunately was our realities. And that was what, like March 20th, I think. So when Katie reached out with her memo, we kind of took a look at it, and we wanted to make sure that we were being really thoughtful for not just emergencies. Obviously, every day is like an emergency. We're looking for the next Band-Aid to kind of help us just stop the bleeding and move on for another day and give us hope for another day. But we also want to take a look at what would give us the best even playing field, or the best chance to get back to some sort of new normal once some of these restrictions were lifted, whenever that may be. Obviously, we have no idea. And you know, I think that's why we came up with 10 points of things that Lisa touched on it, and I know we're all thinking about it, but you know, rent's obviously a big one for us today. Insurance is a huge one. Us being able to have some sort of coverage for our loss of revenue. Those are huge things. Under any other circumstance, we have insurance for that. This is an AHS mandated closure. AHS, if you're not in the hospitality business, you'll find out that they govern and decide whether we can serve food and drinks. We need Alberta Health Services to approve our licenses every year and inspect our spaces and do all the things to make sure we're doing things properly and safely to continue our business. And that YEGIHC and everybody else kind of jumps on after that, fire police. So in order for us to operate, we need their approval, and for them to tell us that we're closed, there is no insurance that covers for that. We're doing this, you know, if we were super capitalists, we could, there's a lot of businesses in the States that are just fighting it and just saying, no, we're going to be open, we're going to do this because there isn't insurance for it. But we know that's not the right thing to do. We've all made the right decisions of making sure we're protecting our people, our communities, and, you know, trying to work hard to see what we can do to get these things in place so we can have an even playing field after this. Again, we're all forced to be closed or reduce our opportunity for business due to no fault of our own. This is not our fault. And that's something that I think it was really important when some of the legislators we spoke to have brought that up. And they understand it's not our fault. It's due to no fault of our own. And yeah, and that's where we're started with. So you can look up on our website on YEGIHC.com. You can see our memorandum and a lot of the businesses that initially started to support us, and we do have other people signing on every week. But yeah, we really want to make sure we're giving ourselves and our staff and our community an opportunity to get back to work at a fair capacity. And we're not oil, we're not airlines, we're not traditionally getting support from government to be able to weather these storms that are no fault of our own. And the money that does come back this way, whether it's rent abatement or anything else, that goes directly to our bottom line and us getting people back to work and to payroll. As I mentioned prior, there's signing on to this. There's over 65 companies who've signed on in support of this memo in Edmonton, all independent businesses, as well as that's over 600 jobs have layoffs temporarily, hopefully, and over $20 million in annual revenue or annual payroll. That's just money going from our businesses to employees. That's
It's
a huge number.
massive. A massive.
And that's only 65 to 75 businesses that we're talking about. These are just our friends. Jason and Kyla I've worked with for a long time. Between the three of us, I think we have probably 80 years of hospitality experience. Nowhere to lie. Mine's 25 years, 26 years this year of hospitality experience. So yeah, so there's a lot of time and energy put into this industry, and I respect everybody that I've gotten to reach out with, and a lot of people who haven't had the time to even look at this because they've been so buried with their
I think
challenges.
it's important to tell everybody watching and everyone listening in right now, if you don't know, insurance covers none of this. I mean, the Creative Hive is a brand new venue and stuff as well, which Mike and I co-founded. And when I saw this, I was like, they're saying all the things that I've been thinking. Because when I called insurance, I thought, oh, we got insurance. That's how you pay, what I thought was a really high amount for that. And they said, no, sorry. I was like, oh, but I didn't do this. And that didn't matter. So I don't know. That's when I saw what you guys are doing. I needed to meet and talk to you and see what was going on. And Jason, what drew you into this group?
For me, to be honest, I think saving our industry, it's a collective action. And I just saw on social media that Chris and Katie started this YEGIHC, and I just reached out to them. I believe I was in my car, and I don't condone driving and texting. I think it was at a light. I pulled over wherever it was. And I copied and pasted an email to both of them, and they said, "Hey, like, what can I do to be involved? Like, how can I be a part of this thing? I mean, like, we're all in this together. Like, it's crazy. Like Chris alluded to, like, it's crazy. It's hard to see or to hear that local industries and independents and these great people and put their heart and soul in their businesses could possibly lose their business with from no fault of their own. It's nothing that we can do about it. It's we have to do what's right by our staff, our community, to close our doors. But at the same time, we're looking at what we kind of sunk years and money and time into, and we could possibly lose it. And Lisa mentioned earlier that this will greatly impact our business moving forward. Venues won't be the same. Large venues, large pubs, places like that, events. I could only imagine if the first person that coughs or sneezes in a venue like some of yours and some of ours, and it just be mass hysteria. So yeah, it's a tough time for sure. But
what's the goal? Yeah. What's the goal of YEGIHC? What are your points? What are your objectives with this? Let's let everybody know that, and anybody jump in there.
Yeah, so I would say that the 10 points that we have in our memo, that's really the emergency right now. And we've just been piecemealing those and working on them as we can. So, once we get something or close enough to something, then it's move on to the next thing. And what we've really been pushing in the last couple of weeks is rent relief. And we heard from the federal government this morning what their rent relief strategy is, which is probably a lot welcome news to a lot of people just in this conversation. It misses the mark for a number of people, and that's something that I struggle with because it was hugely positive news for both Cartago and YEGIHC, but it's not enough, and I'm not satisfied, and we'll continue to push to make sure that it's okay because one thing that Chris has continually brought up, especially in conversations with government, is that we need to be saying the words hospitality more, that it's just, we get lumped in with small business, and hospitality is its own sector. Yes, we are all small business owners, but the hospitality as a whole needs respect. The sector needs respect. It represents 132,000 jobs in Alberta. And so to have that threshold today be announced that you have to have a 70% decline in revenue in order to be eligible for the federal rent relief, that's not okay, because, you know, as is the DNA of many people in the hospitality industry, as soon as this happened, they pivoted on a dime, they grinded, they didn't ever expect necessarily that the government was going to help them. And now they're going to be expected to make full rent on a 50% decline in business or a 60% decline in business. And that's just not, that's not okay. In my opinion, hospitality should be recognized that okay, the hospitality sector represents this many jobs, and if you are in the hospitality sector, you should qualify for this rent relief.
Yeah, and I think the other part too is we've been working with a number of people out of Calgary who've shown their frustrations, people who are on boards of Restaurants Canada West, and they ended up starting their own lobbying groups. I guess some of them have started it prior. And yeah, it's one of those things where we need to make sure everybody is crossing the finish line together here in the hospitality industry. It's not something that we want to have anybody left behind. We don't want to have any closures. Again, this is no fault of our own. And everybody who did the right thing and worked hard to do this, and even with the 75% wage subsidy, I don't know anybody who's actually received any money from that, but have been paying out of pocket to keep people on board, to keep whatever staff they have doing for takeouts. And, you know, Paul Schifeld did a nice little example of the cost of doing this stuff. But what he didn't touch on is the additional cost of getting these supplies, of getting takeout boxes, getting bags, getting, you know, extra gloves and all the extra, you know, and a lot of the stuff, we have extremely clean workspaces. You know, AHS does come in and inspect us every single year. So this isn't like we have some dirty spaces and now everybody has to wear gloves because that's the case. No, we do sanitize. We do all these things. We have our spaces inspected, and now we still have to, even if it's just for optics or for additional security and safety, we do these things. And that's a huge part of our margin. We don't have much margin left at the end of the day anyways. And I know we'll talk about it with takeout, but it's a huge part of our business to make sure that, again, we're on the same playing field and we're not punishing people for, you know, doing their best to feed families and themselves and make sure that they are, you know, covering, even like I said, my shuttered business still incurs between $3,500 and $5,000 a month in just base costs, not including rents, not including anything else. That's just insurance primarily, to be honest. Insurance is insane, and insurance and security too, right? So we're covering those things. So these are all stuff that items that, again, Katie said, we checking out piece by piece, but but again, they're Band-Aids. We need to make sure the stuff comes to fruition. We want to make sure that the 75% payout for employees that are on, that money gets to the businesses. We're not oil, and that money is not going back to shareholders. This money is going to employees. It's going to goods. It's going to our cost of operations. And I think people would be surprised if they looked at any of our T4s and saw how much or how little we actually take home every year versus what we pay out. And it's, again, this is a labor of love and things that we've been doing because we care about it. And yeah, we want to make sure that we're able to get back to it.
Kyla, how can people help, like really help? And I know ordering takeout is great, and I would encourage everyone watching to continue to do that. That's not what we're saying, but is there another way people can help that you could see?
Even if they just support, like, even on social media, even just like a post or make a comment. Instagram, if you like a post or you make a comment, it definitely boosts your place in the algorithm. So it can like get, like, for comment, if somebody makes a comment, it might like bolster our position that people can actually see what we're doing. So maybe you're not actually purchasing something from us, and that's okay, because a lot of people are on like a tight budget right now. But even just interact socially, like on social media, that's a huge one, because if it pushes you more to the forefront of your followers, then maybe somebody that does see what you're doing will choose to support you or has the means to support you. So if you can engage, like, that's a huge thing. And then, I mean, I guess just choose where you spend your money, because everyone is going to probably have a meal out or do certain things. The food is a necessity. So once in a while, if you are kind of going to get a takeout meal, like try to support somewhere that's local. I think that that's really important. And just kind of be conscious, I guess. And yeah, like those are the things. If you can support by buying a gift card, that's huge. If you're going to get takeout from a restaurant and they are on like Skip the Dishes or DoorDash, but they do offer pickup at the restaurant, if you can go to the restaurant, that's a huge thing because Skip the Dishes takes like 30%. And when we were discussing like margins a little bit earlier, retained earnings and things like that, like most restaurants, like even successful ones, only have like a 2% retained earning. So when they're cutting, like when Katie's saying that it doesn't, if you have to be down by 70% and you're a restaurant, if you're down by 70%, like you're in a lot of trouble regardless, or 50% or 40% or 30. It's not just like the margins are razor thin. It's like the labor is so costly, which is great because that's what we're all doing. I think we're doing it obviously because it's a business, but a lot of us are also doing it because we want to support the community. We want to employ people. And so most of our like expenses do go to our staff. So yeah.
Mental health. I mean, I don't know how this hasn't taken a huge toll on each and every one of you, and that support online that we can all easily do in the community for each and every one of you in all of our local establishments. That kind of support must help bolster that mental health, because I mean, each of you have dealt with that. You've had to lay people off. You've had to do that. So how are you doing, and how can you get some support for mental health as well for each of you? How can we help?
Great question.
Yeah.
I think mental health is it's been a roller coaster for sure from the beginning. I know for myself, it's almost like the stages of grief, right? So when I made the decision to close Cartago, obviously that was, at first I was in denial, then I was very angry, and then I was absolutely in despair and panic about what this all meant. And as the weeks have gone on, things have gotten better, and this has given me purpose, and I feel a little bit more stable, I guess you could say, as far as my thoughts and feelings and emotions. But I think there's a huge power in knowing that you're not alone. So reaching out as opposed to having people reach in is been really, I think, helpful to a lot of people to say, look, like, I know this is probably what you're going through, and I just want to let you know you're not alone, and that regardless of if you're out there working every day trying to make your business work, I'm here, and there's this group here that's going to work in your interests as well, so that you're not alone.
Lisa, Jason?
We've been really lucky, I guess, in the sense that we've got an amazing group of regulars, because Rosario and I were in our business and are in our business all the time. So just the emails I get saying like, hey guys, like, we're just going to buy some sauce this week. So we just want to support you guys, and we hope you're hanging in there. So as cheesy as it sounds, just literally being able to interact with my regulars every single week is the one thing that has lifted me up and gotten me through this and made me think like we might be okay. Like, everybody wants to see us succeed in the end, so we might get through this together if we just keep holding on and doing it together.
Yeah, we've just receiving a tons of messages, just making sure, whether it be checking up on us personally, whether asking how we're doing or how the business is doing. That's been nice to hear. And we just opened last week for takeout, and just the initial response on social media and even walking to our store for takeout and pickup, it's been great to see that. And nothing is more, I guess, like uplifting to us, to our spirit, is to see kind of the community coming together. And you didn't realize how many people you've touched in what way or what manner you touched them, but you do realize how people are out there rooting for us to succeed. They're rooting for Katie's store, to Kyla's, yours, Lisa, like Chris's. Like, we're all, I think, rooting for each other, and we really want us to make it through this. And isn't just other local hospitality people. It's our friends, it's our guests, it's our customers as well. So if anything, it's made that sense of community a lot stronger from this, I would say.
I think one thing people can do as well is, you're always prone to go and shop from your favorites and support your favorites. But at this point, it needs to be about supporting the community. So like, I encourage you, like, go try food from somewhere that you've never tried it from before. Like, there's places that are doing things that they don't even usually cook on a regular basis just so that they can make ends meet. So like get on social media, check out what's going on, and just like support everybody as much as you possibly can to keep our like wheels going. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah, it's a big, well-rounded community. You know, there's people. I keep talking about it when we're talking about recovery, and a big part of our business is everybody else's business. You know, having Yenny come through and order a round of shots when he's in the neighborhood. All of Kyla's people coming to support us when we have an event going on, and us going to support them. That's what goes to our staff, and that's a big part of our tips, and that's a big part of our community, is that we all do support each other. I'm going to be a bit more of a downer than you guys are. I have to admit, when the 16th hit, my girlfriend and I left town, and we just went to ski for the day, and it was strange. We're at a Marmot Basin, and it was dead. There was nobody outside. It was when the actual realities of COVID starting to kick in, and like what Katie said, I was in denial. I didn't really understand, looking at the metrics, how this was really going to affect us. And my partner works in the oil field, so she went off to work, and the weather was crappy, and it was gloomy, and minus 15 and minus 20. And I had a pretty hard depression. It was really tough. I was socially isolated for 14 days by myself. And if it wasn't for, like Katie said, having some purpose, it would have been really, really hard. And luckily the sun did come out, and I went for a run, and I felt a little bit better. But, it has been, again, like everybody else was saying, those parts of outreach, people communicating, connecting in different ways. I'm not the youngest guy with the newest phone and all the cool apps and everything, but it's been a really positive thing. But it's been hard, and the reality is it is hard. All these things, they definitely take the edge off, but it's far from a positive experience. I think overall, I think it's we're kind of masking that a bit with all these little highlights and these high points, and the opportunity to get to engage one-on-one or in small communities like this. But it's a huge hill ahead that we have to deal with, and not seeing that every day is me just denying it. And Katie and I, every week, we usually, one of us will be like, hey, is there anything you need from me? Because I will not talk to you for 3 days, because I just need it for myself.
You just need that downtime, that cutoff from the world time. And, we have to paint that picture that what you're seeing on social media, those beautiful pictures of food are always beautiful pictures of food on social media, but they don't show what's behind that food.
Yeah, and Des, I just wanted to quickly note too, and I know a lot of people in this group are aware of it, but just anybody else in the hospitality industry that's watching, there is an Edmonton-based specific mental health support group for those people in hospitality. It was started by the group at Chartier, as well as Paul Schufelt, and I believe Peter from Muley's, and then Andrew and Matt from Northern Chicken. And it recognizes that there are very specific mental health needs that existed prior to this in the hospitality industry, namely, the long hours that especially back of house works, and then definitely addictions and accessibility to alcohol and long hours and that kind of thing. So it's called In the Weeds, and so check them out. I know they're all very busy and dedicated to their businesses and keeping their businesses afloat, but they are going to be a huge resource, I think, going forward for the hospitality industry and helping support the hospitality industry with those mental health needs. And they do have some resources listed on their Facebook page and on their website.
I'll add that link underneath this, as well as to YEGIHC and to each of your businesses as well, so people can find out that information. I think it is very important, and sometimes you don't want to reach out to a group, that maybe you just want to reach out one-on-one, but we can't ignore that. And that was kind of where I was leading with the pictures too, that even though they're beautiful pictures, what's behind them can be anything.
This ugly mug is taking the photos.
Oh.
Before we started this live, I said that social media can be the biggest liar. And I think, imposter syndrome is real for a lot of us. And we're looking at these social media accounts and saying, oh, okay, while they're doing this, I should be doing that. And why, it looks like they're going to survive and I'm just going to perish, or what's going on. And some people look more panicked than others. But I think the ultimate thing with social media is that it is just that it's the highlight reel, and everybody's trying to project this image like things are good or we're okay, and just trying to get that support to make those ends meet. But it is actually the bare minimum, and we need so much more.
So I want to make sure and extend before we wrap up here that this is not a closed community, that there is a membership page and a way to get in touch with you guys on YEGIHC, that more people can be involved, and you want more people to be involved because those voices are louder when you're together.
Yep.
Yes.
So how do they find you? What do they need to do?
You can just go to YEGIHC.com. There's a form there if you want to join in and support. Also, Katie and my emails are directly on the homepage, so you can email us, or Facebook. We also have a Facebook page as well. But yeah, just message us, and I think email is probably the best to be able to actually get a hold of us, or filling out that form, whether you're actually a hospitality business or not. We do get all that information, and we can be able to put it out there. So that's the biggest thing. And then, like Kyla said, go visit our pages, check stuff out. If you're on social media wasting time, as we might have a little bit more than usual, or need a coffee break, yeah, go through that and check it out, like some posts, comment on some stuff, and share them with people you think might be interested. And then that last part of it is advocate. Tell your MLAs, your MPs, MLA especially if you're in a community that you have businesses you really, really care about. This is risking closure of Main Street. All these businesses, Kyla built that corner where she exists, and with it closed, it's weird. It's really strange. Walking around our neighborhood downtown on 103rd Street, it's usually super busy, and it's not. So making sure we're doing everything we can to bring that back when we are able to get back. Otherwise, yeah, it's gonna be really, really difficult.
Well, I know that each of you and you guys put it really well, saying that, in the weeds is a place to go to get help. And while you're in the weeds right now, navigating the day-to-day and how that day-to-day shifts, I'm going to tell you from the 500-foot view looking down, watching you guys all come together and connect is inspiring. It gives hope that this will be okay in whatever way that is at some point. I have no magic ball. I can't tell you that. I mean, we've all watched the festivals we love announce they're closing. Taste of Edmonton, supporting so many small restaurants and stuff through that, Klondike Days and Calgary Stampede. And it breaks my heart every time I see that. But I also see sitting up there, people coming together and supporting, and the voices are going to get really loud. So they're not going to be able to ignore you for long. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do, and looking forward to trying some of that food that made me really hungry looking at all your sites. So put all those links on. Thank you very much for giving us the time today and the space to share some of this information. And if you guys need anything, please reach out. That's what the Creative Hive is for.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Des.
You're so welcome.